waited for the bus out by the branch office. However, it was considerably late. Delays were par for the course in Mountain Village in the midst of winter, but still.
1時間経ちましたね。
列車は間に合いますかね。
まだ余裕はありますから大丈夫。
She said that, yet she'd been doggedly checking her watch for quite some time now. Unfortunately, neither of us could afford to walk away when the bus was capable of showing up any second. Are you nervously checking your watch because you're worried someone's gonna find something? I would have done a bit more investigating if I'd known it'd take this long, but there was no point crying over spilled milk.
すみません、時坂さん。
ええ、構いませんよ。
すみません。
Nanako stepped in the branch office, probably to answer Nature's call. I'm gonna blame her with the cold and all. In the meantime, I took out the envelope Inu had given me. It wasn't exactly the sort of thing one could read in public, meaning my only chances to do so were when no one else was around. So it was only once I was positive the coast was clear that I checked the files relating to Sachiko Kawase. As Inu had explained, Nanako was the first to find the body. The on-site forensic examination was carried out by Inui and Yuzu Kuroya. So we examined the body, huh? Probably only done a quick once over the corpse, while the autopsy proper was carried out by an official medical coroner. A separate sheet with autopsy results signed by a different doctor corroborated that theory. Said report mentioned that Sachiko Kawase may have suffered from carbon monoxide poisoning. More specifically, it hypothesized that she'd been rendered unconscious with carbon monoxide, leaving her immobilized and vulnerable. Oh, you mean the incense that was burning at the fucking... Would have been easy to obtain, too, since all you needed to produce carbon monoxide was to burn something. Yep. But did that mean the killer had used it in the murder, then? Personally, I would have bet my money on it, especially considering the victims in Tokyo had been similarly paralyzed with a muscle relaxant. Anything else suspicious? I flipped through the files until I found a barely legible note scrawled in pencil. Keiko Zaisen had not received treatment and was in peak medical condition. The rest of the document was written in pen, meaning this note had clearly been edited afterward. If I had to guess, it was probably Inspector Inui's handwriting. Curious what it could indicate, I read through the relevant entries. In them, I found it written that Sachiko Kawase had undergone infertility treatment, which was postulated to be linked to why her uterus had been torn open and stuffed with that clay doll. Infertility treatment, huh? Should I check if the Tokyo victims were receiving anything similar? Wait, no, that wouldn't make sense. They were Ayato Hinagami's bridal candidates. The Hinagamis would never have chosen an infertile woman to marry their successor. Does that mean there was another reason besides that, then? It was then that Nanako exited the branch office. I hastily put away the files as she strolled over. Nanako stared at the entrance of the settlement without taking even the slightest bit of interest in what I'd been up to.
途中で事故を起こしてなければいいのですけれど。
運転手も慣れているのでしょうし。
そんなことありませんよ。雪が降るたびに道路の状況は変わりますし。
Okay, that settles it. I'm never driving around here.
あら、おまわりさん。
Just then I turned around and saw Takayama making a beeline to us from the police station.
どうかしましたか？
それがバスが隣の集落を過ぎたあたりで。
どうしましょうか。
Nanako looked at me. What? Did you expect me to whip out some Herculean strength to lift the bus back onto the road or something?
ああ、大丈夫です。自分が富山駅まで車で送るよう乾警部に言われましたから。
それは助かります。
One door closes, another one opens, huh? I don't know if I trust Takayama behind the wheel.
自分は今年の夏、運転免許を取ったばかりなんですよ。
Scratch that. This door needed shutting now. December 29th, that would have been the night before.
これからの典型会には私に代わる省庁が必要になるだろう。
省庁？
千里橋であった時、奴は託戦の巫女なるものを前面に出して活動した。
しかし奴はそれまでの教義を捨て教団を私物化したのですよ。
方法は間違えておらぬ。
ですが今になってなぜ突然そのようなことを。
私はもう長くない。後を継ぎ信徒を導くには。
おっしゃりたいことは理解できました。ではその託戦の巫女となるものを
今はあるところに預けている。時が来れば話す。
A future oracle of revelations. placed under another's care. The original Satsuki? Mayhaps? Because I had theorized that the original Satsuki was actually Tokiko Shigusa, and that after that plan went to shit, Tokiko got sent back to Ueno, and then obviously all the events of Cartagra happened. That was my because that's right. I found out that Shigusa is Tokiko was the same age as Reiji, Ayato, and the rest of them. But then clearly this takes place, what, 6 years after Cartagra? Something like that. See where the time comes. So definitely wouldn't be, if Tokiko was the original Satsuki, it definitely wouldn't be her. Right?
わかりました。
But now they've found this new oracle. Sunday, December 29th. Right. Okay, New Leaf Garden. Yeah. You could have met her friends in front of Musashiko Ganai Station and strolled on over to the New Leaf Garden with them.
よく来てくれたわね、みんな。
Amy was there to greet them.
今日はよろしくお願いします。時坂ゆかりと申します。時坂？あなた、探偵のお兄さんがいたりするの？ええ、まあ、何か兄がご迷惑をおかけしましたでしょうか。
Yukari felt anxiety well up in the pit of her stomach.
いえ、そんなことないのよ。
Amy smiled and shook her head.
まあ、ついてきて。あ、子供たちが眠ってるから。はい、わかりました。
The group entered the building and found children covered in blankets sleeping on the floor.
結構いるのね。
They're probably about 10 or so.
やっと寝かしつけたとこよ。さっきまでずっと騒いでいて大変だったんだから。この人数を母さんが毎日？今日は特別よ。年末で一番忙しい時期だから、みんな子供を預けて用事を済ませちゃうのよ。はい。ですが、このままではいけないのですか？ 真っ白な制服を汚したくないでしょ。そこの隅で着替えちゃってくれるかしら。わかりました。
Yukari placed her bag in the corner of the room and changed into a gym outfit. Amy watched over the children in the meantime.
みんな親がいるんですか？
Kana asked Huyumi that question after she finished changing.
ほとんどの子はそうね。でも親がいない子も預かっているのよ。
Huyumi gingerly lifted a wide-awake baby out of a cradle.
この子はいつもむずかってるのよ。私や他の人があやしてもなかなか寝ついてくれなくて。
Is this baby an orphan? The question crossed Yukari's mind, but Huyumi hadn't said anything of the sort, so she knew it'd be rude to ask.
この子は何歳くらいなのですか？
Thus she asked something else instead.
ちょうど1歳になったくらいかしらね。未成熟児だったようで、他の子よりも成長が遅いのよ。
That wouldn't be Toko's kid, would it? Yukari nodded, though she'd never seen another one-year-old to compare. Would that be... No, I think the math adds up, actually. Another child had woken up and was starting to whine, so Huyumi handed the baby over to Yukiko. Yukiko didn't drop the baby. She still froze up like an actress with a sudden attack of stage fright. Yukiko swiveled her head back and forth between Yukari and Kohane, the rest of her body stiff as a statue. Yukari reached out when she saw Yukiko panicking. She took the baby and tried soothing her the way she'd seen mothers comforting their children in public. That is a fat baby. Baby stopped crying and smiled and grabbed Yukari's finger.
かわいいわね。あら、すごいじゃない。その子はいつも泣き疲れて眠るまで大変なのよ。いえ、そういう経験はありませんが。
Baby sucked on her finger.
おっぱい欲しいのかな。そん
Oppa.
なの出ませんよ。
Two friends looked toward Yukiko at the same time for some reason. You got them big milkers, right?
ユキコちゃんだったら大きいから出そうだよね。絞ればいけそうですよね。いや、無理だから。
Yukiko covered her breasts.
母さんなら。私だって無理よ。子供産んだの何年前だと思ってるの？
Amy shrugged.
それにもう離乳期に入ってるから、おかゆくらいだったら食べられるわよ。そうなんですか？1歳くらいだったらもう父離れしていてもおかしくないんだけどね。
Amy procured a baby bottle full of milk.
温度はちょうどいいくらいだから飲ませてごらんなさい。はい。
Yukiko carefully shifted the infant in her arms and placed the bottle in the baby's mouth.
あ、飲み始めた。
Like nobody's business, too, much to the girl's surprise. Baby grabbed the bottle with her tiny hands.
一生懸命ね。そりゃあ生きるためだもの。はい、この子も預かって。
Amy handed the child she was carrying to Yukiko. This one was much bigger than the baby Yukiko had.
その子は力が強いから落とさないように気をつけてね。わかってるけど。
The child was flailing about in an attempt to escape Yukiko's grasp.
危ないから、じっとして。貸して、ユキコちゃん。
Kane, unable to stand back and watch any longer, took the child from Yukiko.
大丈夫だからね。は
The floundering child calmed down in response.
上手なのね。昔似たようなことはやらされてたからね。
Kane lowered the sleeping child onto a futon on the floor.
その子ももう大丈夫じゃないかな。
Yukiko glanced at the baby in her arms. She spat out the tip of the baby bottle and fallen asleep. Yukiko gently wiped the milk off her cheeks. Afterwards, she set down the bottle and laid the baby back in her crib. However, the baby was holding tight onto Yukiko's finger like a pincer. Yukiko tried to pull herself away, but to no avail. Thus, she reluctantly kept holding the little girl's hand. All of a sudden, there was a wail behind Yukiko, inciting her to look over her shoulder. Yukiko was there panicking, faced with a baby crying in a futon.
多分おしっこだからおしめ取り替えてくれる
Baby issued instructions as she carried laundry from across the room.
おしめってユキコちゃんはまずその子のおしめを外してあげて。
Kane darted off towards Huyumi. With that, the flustered Yukiko was left alone with the crying baby and Yukari.
時坂ごめんなさい。今動けないの。
Almost literally, in fact, since the baby was clutching her finger like the devil.
まずそのカバーを外してみたらどうかしら。
Yukiko timidly unfastened the button and removed the cover. Yukiko leaned back the second she took off the diaper.
どうしました？
For a moment, Yukari was worried the baby had left a brown surprise instead.
男の子。
It's a boy! Yukiko looked at Yukari's way, face flushed as she muttered those words.
そのままにしておくと風邪をひいてしまいますよ。で、濡れているようでしたらきちんと拭いてあげてくださいね。
Yukiko nervously pinched the cloth covering the baby's crotch.
おしめ持ってきたわよ。カバーは汚れてなければそのまま使ってだって。
Kane came back with a fresh cloth in hand.
汚れてない。
Yukiko wiped the baby's crotch with the unsullied part of the old diaper.
男の子の場合の折り方は
Kane put the folded diaper on the cover and wrapped it around the baby's bottom.
これでいいかしらね。ありがとう。困った時はお互い様よ。
Kane smiled. Yukiko looked at the baby in her arms. It had let her finger go at some point.
終わった？だったら汚れたおしめも洗うから。
Amy came over and tossed the diaper in her laundry basket.
みんな眠ってるようだったら少し休憩しましょうか。
Girls nodded and all got together at a table away from the children.
大変そうですね。そうね。子供はこちらの都合なんて考えてくれないもの。
Yet despite her complaints, Huyumi seemed to enjoy her work.
あ、ほらクッキーどうぞ。今コーヒーも入れるから。ありがとうございます。
Kane wasted no time snatching a cookie out of the basket Huyumi brought out.
でも小羽があれほどできるなんて意外でした。ユキコちゃんがうろたえすぎなのよ。ごめんなさい。
Yukiko hung her head.
それが悪いって言ってるんじゃなくて、 落ち着けば大丈夫ということですよね。そう、それ。
Kane nodded, relieved Yukari had thrown her a lifeline.
それは分かってるけど。脱がしてみたら男の子。だったら誰でも驚くわよね。
Fuyumi brought over some coffee. She poked fun at her daughter.
母さん。
Yukiko blushed and rose to her feet.
男の子のは見たの初めて？
What, you've never seen a wiener before? No, I don't want to return to the title screen. Why do you do this? Why do you do this? I just want to take screenshots.
当たり前じゃない。
Yukiko shook her head and sat back down.
芋虫みたいだったよね。
Kane turned to Yukari.
芋虫というよりも蜂の幼虫の方が似てましたね。ごめん、わかんない。
Yeah, I wouldn't know, but...
ねえねえ、学校でのユキコってどんな
How
感
many
じ？
wieners has she looked at? Fuyumi served the friends 3 cups of coffee.
そうですね。
Yukari locked eyes with Yukiko, unsure of what to say. Yukiko clasped her hands together in a pleading gesture, but that didn't help Yukari much, unfortunately. Fuyumi was watching
お
too.
となしいですが、美術部でも精力的に活動されていますよ。そうなんだ。
Fuyumi grinned from ear to ear. Yukiko got up again, prepared to leave the room.
お手洗いだったら廊下の突き当たりよ。
Fuyumi held in a laugh as she watched her daughter flee.
仲がいいんですね。どうなのかしらね。
Fuyumi's voice lost some of its cheer.
私は結局あの子の本当の母親じゃないから。
Yukari quietly gasped. That was news to her. Though admittedly, she had thought Fuyumi looked a little young to be a mother.
あら、知らなかったの？
Fuyumi grimaced as she realized she'd screwed up.
私は知ってましたけど。ごめん。私が喋ったってあの子には言わないでくれる？ええ。それは構いませんが。
Still, Yukari was jealous. Though foster, the two of them were still mother and daughter where it counted. As someone who'd lost her parents too young to really remember them, Yukari wished she could have talked to them the way Yukiko did with Fuyumi. Suddenly, Yukiko returned.
おかしなこと言ってないわよね。大丈夫よ。普通のことしか言ってないから。何が普通なの？
Hell yeah, that's why I love her. Yukiko heaved a deep sigh. It was already pitch black out by the time Yukari returned to Kichijoji from the New Leaf Garden. And yet the shopping district was still lit up like a Christmas tree, hoping for its last big sales of the year. Yukari considered buying some ingredients for their New Year's meal. Nowadays, she didn't even have to make it anymore. Most places sold the dishes as is. It was just her and Reiji, so she did only get enough for 2. Oh wait, I almost forgot about Mr. Masaki. Maybe I should cook for 3 instead. If so, how much will I need? Yukari's eyes fell upon a storefront as those thoughts danced through her mind. It was a bookstore flanked by booths decorated for New Year's. Stacks of copies of the same book littered them. When Yukari saw what was written on the giant poster in the window, she froze. Her mind ground to a halt. Oh, a new Shinji Mamiya. The infamous fugitive author's latest book has hit our shelves. Come read Shin Katsuragi. Yeah, Shin Katsuragi. I forget what his pen name is. The Sheep of Purgatorio now. Shin Katsuragi. He was the culprit behind the killings 2 springs earlier. Yukari had only been told the basic details of the case. She could never forget that name. After all, that was the man who murdered her best friend and went on the run after kidnapping another. And yet somehow it appeared he'd gone and written another book. Yukari had read his previous book, much like so many others. Its outlook on the world had been downright baffling and bizarre, devoid of even a single iota of normalcy. As such, Yukari hadn't understood it all that much. She'd mostly just been surprised there was someone who saw the world that way. Morbidly curious, she picked up one of the copies. The leaflet inside simply talked about Shin Katsuragi, saying nothing about the actual book itself. A quick skim through the pages revealed it to be seemingly ordinary work of fiction. In other words, nothing that even remotely resembled a missive from a fugitive. The book cost 280 yen. Yukari could afford that with her pocket change. Perhaps Reiji can make something out of this. After thinking it over a bit, she decided to buy the book. She'd save her New Year's food shopping for tomorrow.
Ara, Yukari-chan. Konbanwa.
Yukari set her shopping bags down in a corner where no one would trip over them.
お正月のお買い物？ええ。 明日にするつもりだったんですが、今日の方が安いと。
それ言われたの。
ええ、そうですけど。
あそこのおじさんはいつも同じこと言うのよ。
そうだったんで。
Still, that likely wouldn't be an issue considering New Year's dishes tended to have a long shelf life.
コーヒー入れるわね。
Kyoko turned around. Yukari sat at the counter, only to notice that she wasn't the cafe's only customer a moment later. There was a woman in a suit sitting in the back. Yukari was drawn to her shoulder-length white hair. Oh, Toji. However, the woman's features were youthful, suggesting her hair was not white from age, but rather from birth.
何か
Hell yeah, queen. The woman cocked her head when she noticed Yukari staring.
いえ、すみません。
Yukari apologized when she realized what she'd been doing.
ああ、そうそう、ゆかりちゃん。この方は青木浩二さんといって時坂くんの仕事仲間だそうよ。
Kyoko introduced the white-haired woman after serving Yukari some coffee.
兄さんの。それはどうも。いつも兄がご迷惑をおかけしております。
Yukari got off her stool and bowed to Toji.
いや、そこまで迷惑をかけられた覚えはまだないが。
Yeah, no, believe me, she had to work with Shugo before. She knows what a troublemaker
で
is.
すが、これからもご迷惑をかけることがあると思いますので。
話には聞いていたが、よくできた妹さんだな。
でしょ？
Kyoko chuckled.
そんなことありませんよ。
Yukari disagreed, but perhaps she only came off as modest.
今は家で一人なのだろ？何か困ったことなどはないか？
特にありません。兄が家にいないのはいつものことですから。
Yukari shot Kyoko a moment's glance.
まあ、何事もないのが一番だな。
Toji drank her coffee.
青木さんは昨年春の事件についてご存知ですか？
当時でいい。昨年春ということは君の兄が関わっていたことか？
ええ。
Yukari took out the book she just bought. She wanted to discuss it with someone before Reiji got back.
プルガトリオの日。
Toji took the book. It was then that Yukari noticed her left sleeve swayed unnaturally. She must be missing an arm.
桂木神といえば、
ええ。兄はその人の行方を追い続けているんです。
Along with the girl he'd kidnapped.
知っている出版社だな。
Toji raised an eyebrow after checking the book's publication data.
時坂くんはこの本のことを知っているの？
Probably not.
知らないと思います。知っていたら絶対。
It wouldn't have surprised Yukari if Reiji abandoned his current case the moment he found out. That's just how obsessed he was with Tokokichiki.
時坂くんだったら。
Kyoko sighed.
いつ帰ってくるかわかるか？
いいえ、まだ連絡はありませんが。
But Reiji hadn't mentioned his return plans when he called Yukari the other night. Though he had said he'd he planned to be back before New Year's. Assuming nothing happened anyway.
君からは説明しない方がいいだろうな。
え？
飛び出して生きかねないのを止められないだろう。
そうかもしれませんが。
こちらで調べられることは調べて、私から伝えるよ。
その方がいいかもしれないわね。
Kyoko nodded.
無茶をしそうだったら殴ってでも止めるさ。
Hell yeah, Toji.
お手柔らかにお願いします。
Yukari bowed, sensing this woman had seen far more scraps on the streets than Reiji. Hell yeah. That's my motherfucking queen right there. Toji waited for someone on a road near Ueno Station. She'd contacted the publisher of Shin Katsuragi's latest novel after Yukari Takasaka had brought it to her attention. Though not a big-shot journalist, her work had still garnered her some sources as said publisher. The one she was meeting with hadn't been Shin Katsuragi's direct contact. Still, she figured he'd at least have some information on the subject, hence the meeting. While she'd only met this editor a few times, she was sure he'd recognize her on sight. That was just how conspicuous she was. A stout man emerged from the station.
お待たせしました、青木さん。
He called out to Toji the moment he spotted her.
年末でお忙しいところ申し訳ありません。
いえ、もう休みに入っているので。
早速ですが、この本は御社で出版されたものです。
Toji showed him a copy of the Sheep of Purgatorio that she'd bought that morning.
ええ、出版するにあたって社内でもいろいろとあったようですが。
Man nervously scanned the area.
場所を変えましょうか。
そうですね。近くに。
Toji led the way.
どうぞ。
Toji beckoned the editor into her office.
どうも。いや、さすがに外は寒いですね。
Yeah, I thought all that fat would have kept him warm. Guess cold weather affects everyone all the same.
出版に至るまでの経緯を聞かせてもらえますか。
Toji urged the man over to his sofa and got straight to the point.
うちは彼とは付き合いがなかったのですが、夏に突然原稿が封書で送られてきたんです。
付き合いがなかった。
青木さんもご存知の通り、うちは文芸を扱っていませんからね。
Indeed, they mostly published news magazines.
もちろん事件についてはこちらの得手ですから、報道されている以上のことは知っていますからね。
記者に送られてきた理由は分かっているんですか。
さあ、それがさっぱりわからないんですよ。
Maybe there's some reason he couldn't go to them then. Like, say, perhaps they could have figured out where he was hiding.
原稿はどこから送られてきたのですか。
確か都内の郵便局の消印が入っていたそうです。
どこですか。
それが港区の飯倉町です。
Toji gasped.
郵政省じゃないか。
うちのゴシップ担当の連中はすぐそばのソ連大使館に潜んでいるなんて言ってましたかね。
Yeah, no, this isn't a spy thriller.
どこかから出てきて、ある意味足のつきにくい郵政省そばから投函したのでしょうね。
どこにいるのでしょうか。
さあ、それを調べるのは探偵の仕事ですよ。
It wasn't Toji's job in any case.
原稿はどのような状態で送られてきましたか。
普通の原稿ですよ。原稿用紙に万年筆で書かれていました。
直筆ですか。
原稿を活版刷りする人はいませんよ。
The man chuckled.
原稿の他に何か手紙などは入っていなかったのですか。
ありませんでしたね。原稿とプルガトリオの羊、葛城神と書かれた紙だけです。
連絡先などもなく。
冊子に載せてくれということづけもありませんでしたから、扱いには困りましたね。まあそんなわけで原稿が手に入りまして、会議にかけられて出版が決まったんです。もちろん反対の声もありましたがね。話題になることを優先したんですよ。
That was only natural, seeing as they were a money-making enterprise. Still, the lack of a contact address created another issue.
印税などはどうするおつもりですか。
そこも悩みどころなんですよ。連絡も取れませんから、手渡しや振り込みもできませんし。
支払う予定はない。
だと思いますよ。逃走資金にされると大変ですからね。
So Shin Katsuragi did all this without expecting a cent in return. In that case, why hadn't he even bothered sending the manuscript to begin with? To stroke his own ego? To send a message that he was still out there? Toji had never met this Shin Katsuragi, or rather Shinji Mamiya. Therefore, she didn't know what kind of person he was. Perhaps he craves the limelight. That had to have at least been part of the reason he committed such grotesque murders.
本日はわざわざお越しいただきありがとうございました。
Time to wrap this up.
また何かお聞きすることもあると思いますが、よろしくお願いします。
構いませんよ。それでは。
Editor left at the office. Toji returned to her desk and popped a cigarette between her lips. She dragged on it as she wrote down everything she'd just been told. It wasn't clear where Shin Katsuragi was. However, the fact that he'd mailed his manuscript from within city limits just a few months ago meant he was probably hiding in the vicinity of Tokyo. The MPD was still looking for him, so it's possible someone else had sent it. And if so, that suggested someone was sheltering him. But who'd harbor such a savage killer, the likes of which has rarely been seen? Naori? We know... So here's that we do know that Naori is in Tokyo. We do know that Naori always had the dream, right, of being an author. So potentially he releases this. He had a hand in this story, mayhaps? Maybe something happened to Shinji and the story didn't get finished, and Naori decided to do it? I'm not too sure. I don't know, Naori doesn't strike me as the guy who would, like, I don't know, aid a fugitive like that, especially a serial killer. But, I guess I don't know. And at that point, Toji recalled a woman she'd gotten involved with during another case. Though she hadn't exactly been harbored per se, the people around her had safeguarded her and tried to help her back on her feet. Any criminal could find shelter as long as they had someone who loved them. She's talking about Tokiko? The fact that, you know... With that being said, Toji had heard that Shin Katsuragi's father was currently in prison. Didn't sound like the young serial killer had shown up at the orphanage in Gunma once he'd stayed at either. However, it was possible he was being concealed by some random person he'd happened to bump into one day. Shin Katsuragi was rather easy on the eyes, according to this photo anyway, so it wasn't unthinkable that he managed to charm some woman into helping him hide. Not that he was Toji's type though, not in the slightest. Masaki and Karen's train pulled into Ueno Station a few hours behind schedule. This had been an express train with no beds, his body ached all over. Masaki took Karen's bags, passed through the gate, and looked around. Tomorrow was New Year's Eve, so the shops were alive with their last sales of the year. They had fairly sizable crowds of customers too, though the takoyaki stand was as deserted as ever.
兄様、警察の方はどちらにいらっしゃるのですか?
Karen wrapped her arm around Masaki's shoulder and looked up at him.
記者がずいぶん遅れたからな。
The obnoxious police superintendent was nowhere to be found. Masaki didn't mind though. He actually would have preferred it if Yaginuma never showed up, but he knew the police officer who'd accompanied them from Toyama wouldn't let them off the hook so easily.
兄様、警察の方を探しに行かれるのでしたら、お荷物お持ちしましょうか?
No.
いや、大丈夫だよ。
Yeah, you hold on to your luggage, Masaki. They was carrying both their bags. Masaki's wasn't all that heavy anyway, since he hadn't packed much. Besides, there was something extremely important in there, something that Reiji had entrusted to his care. Thus he wanted to keep it on hand as much as possible. Yeah, good man, good man.
そこの方にお尋ねになられてはいかがですか?
Ken pointed to the dispirited old man behind the takoyaki stall.
いや、駅前の交番で聞いた方が早いと思う。
Masaki shook his head, fearing he'd get suckered into buying some of that Happy New Takoyaki the poster on the saw was selling. Jesus. Just then,
あの方ですか?
Karen pointed toward the police box Masaki had indicated. The bespectacled ruiner of people's days was standing there, shoulders squared as he marched toward the Hinagami
どうも
twins.
お待たせしました。
まったくだ。君らは僕をどれだけ待たせれば気が済むんだ。
列車が遅れたのは僕らの責任じゃありません。
うるさい。久々の休暇だというのに、こんなところで待たされた僕の身にもなってくれ。
Going to bitch and moan about it, and for the love of God, take it up with Tokisaka and the JNR instead. Not that Masaki dared say that out loud, of course. He was inclined to spend New Year's in the coldest cell Yaginuma could find.
ああ、君、ご苦労だった。日暮里に宿を用意したので。
The officer who'd accompanied the Hinagamis on the trip bowed in response.
さて、
Yaginuma turned back to Masaki once the officer left.
事のあらましは聞いている。例のものは。
はい。
Masaki opened his suitcase, handed Yaginuma the bag that had been wrapped in a fresh pair of underwear.
なんてところに入れてるんだ。
時坂さんの指示でしたから。
Leave me out of this.
まあいい。分析結果は早くても年明けになると。
わかりました。
本来ならば君の身柄も確保しなくてはならないのだが。
Is he turning a blind eye?
必要があるときはすぐ拘束できるから何も心配する必要はない。
On second thought, perhaps he's just that cocksure of himself.
ねえ、兄様?
Karen tugged on Masaki's sleeve.
おや? そちらは?
Yaginuma turned to Karen as though he'd only just noticed her.
ひながみカレンと申します。彼の妹です。
ああ、あなたが。
Masaki saw Yaginuma's eyes narrow behind his glasses for a moment.
あちらで起こった事件についてお話を伺うことがあるかもしれません。
四谷にあるひながみ製薬の東京事業所をお尋ねくださいませ。
どうもありがとうございます。
Yaginuma wrote something down in his notebook.
では、僕はこれで失礼させていただきますよ。
Yaginuma bowed and strode over to the subway station. Masaki sighed.
なんだか感じの悪い方ですね。
Karen frowned.
いや、みったらしいのは確かだけどな。
Still, Masaki was grateful that Yaginuma hadn't arrested him.
この後、兄様はどうなさるのですか?
帰って寝るよ。体も痛いし。
そうですよね。
送っていくよ。どこまでだ?
ああ、四ツ谷駅までで結構ですわ。
じゃあまた駅に入り直さないとな。
Masuki turned around to go buy tickets, annoyed that he could have avoided going out into the cold were it not for his business with Yaginuma. Okay, and then supposedly Reiji shows up on the 31st. Oh, right, he has to go see the Kichikis, right? Masuki visited Kichiki Hospital on the morning of New Year's Eve, rather, when the sun was reaching its apex. A sign reading closed hung from the door. It was a holiday, so that was only natural. There were still hospitalized patients, though, so it wasn't like the place was entirely devoid of staff. Besides, Reiji had already called ahead to let them know Masuki would be visiting. Masuki opened the door and stepped inside. It was even quieter than usual, seeing as how there were no outpatients. No one manned the reception desk either. Where could she be? We're supposed to meet at the hospital. Masuki took the film out of his pocket. It was a simple roll where the film was wrapped around a tube at the center and protected by white paper. Masuki had to return it to Chizuru Kichiki. That was the only duty Reiji had assigned to him, even though the man could have very easily done it himself. Masuki understood his boss wasn't back in Tokyo yet, but he still didn't see what the rush was. Chizuru Kichiki. Masuki remembered her. She was Naori's cousin, who had come from Tokyo in that winter he'd spent with Satsuki. The fact that she was Naori's cousin also meant she was related to the Hinigamis, but that didn't really click with Masuki, considering how distant they were. He didn't even remember talking to her all that much. And it felt like his only contact with her had been through Naori, despite them being around the same age. Now, perhaps that wasn't too surprising, given how things worked in Hitogata. Masuki accidentally dropped the film when he tried putting it back in his pocket. The plastic film rolled across the linoleum floor, till it eventually stopped at someone's feet.
Sumimasen.
It was one of the patients being kept at the hospital. Her name was Michiro Shirosaki, if Masuki's memory served him right. Whatever her name, the girl picked up the film and studied it with her working eye.
Sumanai.
Michiro held out the film as asked. The moment he took it, the tape holding it together came loose, causing the film to burst open and unravel. Masuki couldn't tell if Michiro had been genuinely surprised. Not that he was in any state of mind to be pondering that matter, really. He crouched down and frantically rewound the film. Though he didn't know much about film, he'd heard that exposing it to light could ruin all the photos on it. No, something important is on there. Like an old photo of Sadie. However, he had trouble with the task, seeing as his left hand still wasn't working right. The self-inflicted wound had yet to fully heal. It made him frustrated and bitter. Michiro crouched down next to Masuki and took the film roll. Michiro started rewinding the film around the roll, placing the part with the black resin around the outer side. Michiro tried again. Masuki gave up, figuring the film was now ruined, and instead started contemplating how best to apologize to Chizuru. Michiro finished wrapping the film and handed it back to Masuki. Though the damage was probably already done, Masuki thanked her all the same. He knew she'd only had the best of intentions after all. Pops. Holy cow, do I really look that old? Actually, hold on a minute. Does she not remember me? We already met a few weeks ago. Michiro walked over to a bench in the hallway as though she'd lost all interest in him. She then sat down, turned to Masuki, and tapped the spot next to her. She wants me to sit with her? I suppose I might as well. It's better than standing around and waiting for Chizuru anyway. Masuki approached her with that thought in mind, but a stuffed rabbit stole the spot she'd been tapping. Took a deep breath and sat on the opposite end. Michiro leaned against him immediately after. Thanks? Michiro closed her eye as Masuki struggled to determine whether that had been a compliment. Now he couldn't move at all. Though it wasn't like she was actually sleeping. No one fell asleep that fast, so he technically could have if he wanted to. Still, Masuki would have felt like a jerk about it, so he ultimately stayed there, rooting firmly in place. Masuki looked up toward the source of that feminine voice. It was the face of the girl who had stayed in Hitogata so long ago. Masuki held the fixed roll of film out to Chizuru. Chizuru smiled. Masuki felt a weight lift off his shoulders.
そうですよね。
Shizuto hung her head ever so slightly.
このフィルムの前に撮影したものはまだ自宅に残っていますから。
よろしいのですか？
ええ、亡くなられてしまった方もおりますが。
Sadie. Goody go. Those two now only exist in
よろ
photos.
しくお願いします。
では今度。それでは私は兄に用事がありますので。
Shizuto walked away after saying her goodbyes. Mission accomplished. What am I supposed to do about this sleeping girl? Deal with it. Nanako Sawashiro and I exited Ueno Station, fresh off a night train from Toyama to Tokyo.
やっぱりこちらの方がずっと暖かいですね。
普段はこのくらいでも寒い寒いと言ってましたが。
Maybe I can actually make it through this winter without a heater. Yeah, on second thought, yeah, not happening.
では私はこれで失礼します。良いお年を。
お気をつけて。良いお年を。
We said our farewells and parted ways. Oh, I stopped by Amayoko and get some New Year's decorations or something while I'm here. Then again, Yukari probably bought some ages ago, knowing her. Guess I should call her and ask. Found a nearby payphone and pump some coins into it.
ゆかりか。俺だ。今上野駅に着いた。それでな、正月飾りとかもううちに用意してあるのか。
Yes, of course. Figured.
いや、まさきは昨日のうちに帰っているはずだが。
Fair point.
クリスマスの時の頃か。わかった。じゃあ、まさきを連れて行くよ。
Okay, if I were Muskie, where would I be right now? Probably hunkered down at the office, knowing him. It was with that assumption in mind that I began making my way back to the station. Then, all of a sudden, I spotted Toji in the distance.
よ、当時。今日も仕事。
やはり今の列車に乗ってきていたか。
なんだ、俺待ちかい。
いずれ耳に入るだろうが、こちらから先に伝えておいた方がいい。
Toji held out a book after saying
なん
that.
だ、この本。
The Sheep of Purgatorio by Shin Katsuragi. I'd never heard the title before, but at that point I couldn't have cared less. Frantically flipped through the pages and checked the publication info at the end of the book. First printing, January 1st, 1958. There's no mistaking it. It was a new work, all right.
どういうことだ。
今年の夏、出版社に原稿が送りつけられてきたそうだ。
夏に。どこからだ。
落ち着け、時坂。
Toji tapped me on the shoulder.
落ち着いているさ。落ち着きすぎて怖いくらいだ。
どこが落ち着いているというの。
Toji snatched the book from me.
やはり先に伝えられてよかったよ。
何がいいってんだ。奴の居所がわかるかもし。
いい加減にしろ。
Toji pushed me against the wall. Yeah, fuck him up, Toji.
私はお前に昔何があったのか詳しくは知らない。
Shot me a glare so cold it turned my blood to ice. Damn right.
私が調べたところ、その作者、桂木真の行方がわかるような証拠は見つかっていない。
I finally stopped seeing red. She's right. I have other things on my plate at the moment. Things that need immediate attention. But
詳しく聞かせてくれるか。
こちらでまとめた書類は後で渡す。まずはお前が今抱えている件を片付けることを約束しろ。
わかってるさ。富山まで行っていろいろと判明したこともある。
that much was true.
わかった。
Toji finally released me.
だが、そちらで情報を集めてくれない。
仕事であれば断りづらいが、本当に分かっているのか。
心配するな。俺が動けない間、そちらに動いてもらうだけだよ。
しかしそうなると、典型会についてはそちらに戻した方がいいだろうな。
典型会は真先に調べさせるよ。あながち無関係とも言い切れなくなったからな。
仕草神社か。
そっちでも気づいてる。 ヒンナ様絡みで何かわかるかもしれない。
ではその資料は桂木真の剣とまとめて後で持っていく。今はどうせ頭に入らないだろう。
そうだ。
Must have hated to admit it, she was right.
正月の挨拶を兼ねて持っていく。
I just suddenly stood at attention like a soldier awaiting marching orders.
越前味噌は買ってきてくれたか。おい。
Told you glared at me again. That last glare turned my blood to ice. This one would have made even Medusa look away in fear.
冗談だよ。5号でよかったんだよな。
I just took the miso out of the bag.
あまり時間がなくてな。取り寄せができるかは分からなかった。
そうか。すまなかったな。
Checked the miso, her rage immediately subsiding. I was saying things, or did she look disappointed? Not knowing if she can order some really that big of a deal.
ではまた来年。良いお年をというのははばく。
いや、それでいいんだよ。
We said our goodbyes and left. Wanted to make the next year a good one. But I knew better than anyone else just how tall of an order that was.